You are now tuned in to 13signsastrology.com. Raobat, greetings, Hotep, and peace to the family. My name is Ram Hotep L, and I'll be your master of ceremony on this particular episode. I want to discuss earth changes, and I want to discuss this wild and crazy weather that we've been experiencing. Now, a lot of people, they want to attribute these earth changes and these weather changes to HARP, and they want to attribute these earth changes and these weather changes to chemtrails and all of this type of stuff. Where I'm a type of person that I'm a firm believer that HARP is not behind the recent weather that we've been experiencing. It has nothing to do with HARP, people. Nothing to do with HARP. HARP, you give mankind too much credibility. You give mankind too much credit when it comes to being able to do certain things on a spiritual and cosmic level. See, the weather is very spiritual, especially these days, because being as though we're going into the fourth dimension, as I was talking about on a couple videos back. And as we go into the fourth dimension, the way our reality is in general is going to change. And the weather is a direct effect of this. See, HARP, they deal with frequencies. I understand that. They deal with frequencies, and they actually, what they do is that they more so disrupt the aura of the planet when they go out there doing a lot of their experiments with frequencies and signals and things like that. But they can only attribute, or they can only contribute to the weather problems that are happening, but they're not totally responsible. They can't just go out there with a HARP machine. Everybody thinks they have this weather machine and they can just hit these buttons like do 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 and then fly over with some helicopter and then do something in the frequency of the ionosphere, because HARP deals with the ionosphere. And people think they can just do something with the ionosphere and then all of a sudden we get whatever weather that they want us to have. You give mankind too much credit. We have not got to that level. And people, they say, well, it's the elite, it's the rulers. I've been getting the emails, so not making this stuff up. People have been emailing me like back and forth talking about HARP and the elite and the rulers and the Illuminati. And every time they talk about that, I always know they're talking about some group of men, or some group of men and women. So you think it's the Bilderberg Society, or or someone like that, and you think it's some think tank that's behind manipulating the weather, when it's deeper than that. Like I tried to tell you, the Illuminati is a group of extraterrestrials, if you want to deal with the highest level of the Illuminati. And even when I say that the Illuminati are a group of reptilian shapeshifters, you have to ask yourself, who are the reptilian shapeshifters answering to? So you never thought about that. Are the reptilian shapeshifters here in and of themselves? Or do they have a council or some group or some think tank that they answer to, or some energy even that they answer to? And I've already explained to you, that's why I come out with these videos and I do these videos and I explain to you that even the reptilians, because they're really the darkest class of beings when you talk about manipulation and the group of beings that deal with oligarchy and that deal with creating monopolies on the planet, and the group of beings that really want to suppress humans is really the reptilians. And even when you deal on that level with dealing with the reptilians, the only way that they can rule over you is based on your lack of knowledge of the universe and universal law, because this is what they answer to and what they submit to and who they submit to. You see, we talk about control on the internet, for instance. And I'm going to do a whole video talking about this eventually. I know I say I'm going to do a video on this and that, but I will get to it. I'm going to do a video on this eventually, but we talk about control on the internet. And we have to realize that the way that they control us on the internet, because ETs are controlling us through the internet as well, they control us through what's called the interwebs. And the interwebs is based on a program that many of you probably already know about called Prism. It's called Prism. And Prism basically is an internal database that collects all the data from all the different websites, and you can learn how to hack into this Prism system and manipulate people through the Prism system and through the interwebs. So the reptilians, they control us on the internet through the Prism system. But I'm using this for an example for a reason. But if you knew better, and if you knew more than what the reptilians knew, and you knew about Prism, then guess what? They can't manipulate you now because you know about it. So this is why I always tell people that the way to free yourself from manipulation is to know more, which is the first step. But then the second step is that you have to become more spiritual. And you have to become more metaphysical. You have to learn about your higher self. You have to learn about your solar signature, who you are as far as on the astral realm and in the universe. You have to learn about your natal chart. Things of that nature. You have to learn about, see, knowledge itself is the most powerful knowledge there is. This is why 13 Signs Astrology gets attacked so much, because we're one of the only websites and groups out here that's teaching people about themselves, straight up and down, knowledge itself. We're not talking about the Illuminati, how much power they have. We're not talking about HARP and how much power they have. We're telling people how you fit into this grand scheme of control. Because government will never have any control over you when you become more self-sufficient and more independent. You see, all of this stuff that's going on in the media right now would not have a lot of influence over you if you knew more. And the higher you are, the more you know, the higher up you become in society. This is how things work. So it's no different with the weather. There is no group of beings playing God, controlling the weather the way that you think it is. If you believe that, you're acting like a victim. That's a victim mentality. And I'm going to explain to you scientifically what's going on with the weather based upon what the extraterrestrials are teaching and what the ETs are teaching, because I lean my ear towards what the ETs teach. I don't really too much care about what's going on in the news and all this stuff, because I know that that's the effect. See, the ETs, they are the causers of a lot of this stuff that's going on right now. And the stuff that's going on in the news and what people report in the media and all of that, that's the effect. So though I research the effect, but I always look at the cause first. So what's going on with the weather? First thing you have to realize is that HART, most of their experiments deal in the ionosphere. And anybody that knows anything about weather manipulation, if you want to get into it, you would know that weather is created from within the inner chambers of the earth. Just like I was talking about the interwebs and how the reptilians manipulate us through the interwebs. So you can't influence the internet from outside the internet, which is like up in the air. You influence the internet from the internal aspect of the internet, which is through this prism system. So it's the same thing with weather manipulation. Weather manipulation is based upon, and beings that create the weather on the surface are beings that live within, that have graduated to be invited to live within the center of the earth. And there's many entrances into the center of the earth, but the thing is that you have to be invited, and you would have to partake in certain rituals and certain initiations and certain tests to even be able to make it into the center of the earth. And then once you get into the center of the earth, there's ranks. So when I talk about the reptilians and them having a think tank and all of that, they're only on a certain level. When it comes, there's different clearance levels when you get into the center of the earth. And people that are in the military know all about this type of stuff. A lot of them, not all of them, but people that have high clearance in the military know that there's different levels and different clearance levels when you talk about the beings on the center of the earth. Most militaries across the world are very knowledgeable about this topic. In the US, they like to suppress this type of information because this is probably the most lowest vibrating place that there is as far as the US and the media and how the media is in the US. They don't tell their people anything. But when you start getting into like understanding, like the Africans, they know about the center of the earth. The Russians, they'll tell you about it. The Germans, they'll tell you all about the center of the earth. And they know all about it. And the weather is manipulated based upon a certain class of beings that exist on the center of the earth. So what the reptilians do is that the only thing they do is that they have a certain clearance on the center of the earth, and they have people that sit on the council on the center of the earth. So when the council meets within the center of the earth, this is when you talk about, people talk about the 24 elders, or some people call them the 24 scientists. The 24 scientists exist in the center of the earth. I keep trying to tell people that. And when they go meet the reptilians, they'll have someone that sits on the board, on the council, and they'll get the information, whatever the council agrees on. They'll say, we're going to do this. Because all they talk about in this council in the center of the earth, the only thing they talk about is what they're going to do to us, humans. How they're going to deal with us. Because we're nothing but a big freaking experiment. For good or bad. We have absolutely no power because we're not privy to the knowledge and information that they have. So they'll go meet, and they'll say, okay, you know, they have, and then, I mean, it's a just meeting. I'm not going to sit up here and say that it's just like a meeting where they're talking about how they're going to fuck us up and how they're going to manipulate us all these ways and exploit us all these. That's not what the council is meeting on. That's not what the council is meeting on. When the council meets, they're just basically dealing with collective consciousness and collective thought, and they're dealing with the state of human beings and where we're at right now. And they basically make a judgment, if you will, because they're like judges. They make a judgment based on where they know collective consciousness is at. And then they'll say, well, we're going to cause this to happen based upon most people. Like if they do an opinion poll, they'll say most people think like this. So we're going to cause this type of problem to happen based on people thinking like this. This is what they do in the council in the center of the earth. Now what the reptilians do, this is where the manipulation comes in at. For those beings that do manipulate us, because I do realize there are beings that manipulate us. What they do is that once they figure out, okay, this is what they're going to do, and this is what the council agreed on, so they go out and play the devil. They go leave the council and go manipulate their think tanks and the humans that are up under their control so that they can benefit energy-wise off of what the council just met about. Because the reptilians, they feed off of our energy. This is how they exist in their societies. They have a technology even that they've invented that's based on feeding off of our energy. They have entertainment programs, the reptilians do, that's based off of feeding off of our energy and watching our energy. You ever seen a movie? I think it's not Bruce Almighty, but it's the movie basically where it's a group of beings pretty much watching the existence of humans. And they're watching things that happen on planet Earth. And it's like entertainment to them. I think it's Jim Carrey, and it's not Bruce Almighty. I can't think of the name or whatever. But the events that happen on planet Earth, it's a group of beings or a group of rulers or whoever they are. And they're sitting there benefiting off of this by just watching them. And it's like a form of entertainment for them. So just like we go and pay all this money for the movies and things like that for entertainment, with the reptilians and different groups of beings like that in their economies and their societies, even though they're in 4D, they benefit off of our energy and watching us play out these different scenarios based on what the council just agreed upon. So when you talk about the weather, it's no different. In the council, the highest group of beings are what you call Etherians. They're etheric beings. And an Etherian or etheric being does not have a form. This is what you have to remember. They have absolutely no form. But however, they can take on any form that they so please. And these etheric beings are responsible for all of creation. They created this whole place, the etheric beings. Every being on this particular planet is a product of the etheric beings. So when you talk about incarnations, so you have reincarnation, but you have incarnations. And the etheric being, they can incarnate into any vessel that they so choose. And this is based, and they do this based upon magnetism. And this is going to go into the weather, so don't think I'm off topic. So they do this based upon magnetism. So when you talk about you only use 90% of your brain, or I'm sorry, excuse me, when you talk about you only use 7 to 10% of your brain, what you have to realize is that the reason why you can't use the other 90% is because most of it is not really like a lot to explain about it. Most of it is based upon magnetism. And human beings have very little understanding of magnetism. We don't really understand magnetism. So these etheric beings, they function off of magnetism. They can incarnate in just about any type of, they can even incarnate in animals. They can take on any type of form based upon understanding and overstanding the sciences of magnetism. So when you talk about weather manipulation, And who's really doing it and who's behind it? It's the Etherians that create the weather. It's the Etherians, and what they do is that the Etherians incarnate and take on the persona in the form of various different humans. And they basically, when they do that, they're tapping into a particular human body, and then they collect data, just like in Prism. That's why I'm bringing up that for a reason, because this video has a lot to do with that. Just like in how Prism collects data from different websites. Well, this is what's going on with the Etherians. They incarnate into a particular body, and they begin to collect data. They begin to collect information. And basically what they do is that they're measuring the collective consciousness of a particular group of humans in a particular region or a particular space. And based upon that collective consciousness, they begin to create the atmosphere, the weather, the circumstances that play out in this particular region of wherever there are these particular beings that they're dealing with. So say for instance, each continent represents a different region. You'll have various Etherians that will incarnate in certain masters. They can only incarnate in certain. They're not going to take on anybody's body. That's what you have to realize. These are certain people, children, masters, animals. They'll incarnate in various different forms so they can collect data. And based upon that data, this is how reality will play out in that particular region. This is how. So then when they come and when the council meets, and they basically dictate to the council the collective consciousness of humans on the surface at that time, they'll say, well, most of these humans on this particular part of the planet are dealing in fear. And a lot of them are paranoid. A lot of them are scared. So they'll cause a reality based upon collective consciousness of how those particular humans are functioning. So this is how it works, dealing with the Ethereum. So when you talk about the weather, the reason why it's snowing and doing the things that it's doing is because of the fact that this is where I'm getting at, we're creating it. This is why the spiritual sciences are so important, because magnetism, see, we're attracting through our brains. So you don't realize you might only know how to use 10% of your brain, but it's still being used by someone, the other 90%. Like they say, if you don't use your mind, someone else will. And this is what's going on. So since our minds have not been updated, and since our minds have not been tuned in to the higher frequencies, and we don't know how to at will create weather patterns, you have a group of beings that are using our vessels and collecting data and creating a simulated experience based upon how we all think. So when you talk about it snowing in the South, and it's not supposed to snow in the South, they don't have no salt trucks in the South, they don't have anything like that, and it's snowing in the South and you're getting all these heaps of snow, this is because the people and the consciousness level in the South, it must be cold. It's getting cold in the South, more colder than what it ever was. Snow deals with, how do you create snow? Snow is basically based on, like if it's raining, it's based on moisture. So obviously there's more moisture building up in the South based upon the thoughts, the collective consciousness of humans. So obviously what's happening is that what's really happening is why there's more snow being created is because for some reason, if you think about it on a metaphysical level, there's more water on this particular planet. And there's more moisture built up. So it's causing more snow to bank up in different places that never got snow. This is based on all the collective consciousness, because what's happening is that collectively we're beginning to thaw out the polar ice caps because we're vibrating on a higher level. And as those polar ice caps thaw out, you got to imagine it's just like if you were in a bathtub and it was filled up with ice, and once the ice in the bathtub begins to thaw out, it'll turn into water. It'll turn into water. So basically that's what's happening when the polar ice caps are melting. It's causing more water to basically go into the process of evaporation and condensation and that whole process. So obviously there's more water in the atmosphere. That's what's going on right now. So that's why it's snowing more. And then not only that, but climates are becoming more cooler. That used to be a lot more warmer. I mean, it always got cold in the South, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying that now it's cold for a longer period of time. and at different time periods where it would have maybe have started getting warm, it's still cold in these particular areas, in these particular climates. This is because things are shifting. See, when the polar ice caps melt, the polar ice caps are responsible for keeping the bodies of land locked into the positions that they're in. Scientists have researched this and have found this out. And when the polar ice caps begin to melt, this is when bodies of water can shift. I'm sorry, bodies of land can begin to shift, and they can move. So just because you're in the United States of America, or so-called, it's really called America, the United States is a corporation. Just because you're in America does not mean that you're in the same region or the same area that you were in 10 years ago. How do you know? They're not going to report this to you. See, that's the thing. They're going into the pole. They're going into the center of the earth. I mean, you got scientists going into the North Pole and going into the caverns of the center of the earth from the North Pole. This is going on, and they're monitoring the bodies of land, and they're monitoring the movements based on the bodies of land. So the earth is shifting. The shift is happening right now, and you have what's called geomagnetism. And geomagnetism deals with the magnetism, the levels of magnetism available on this particular planet. And remember, I was telling you that the Etherians, they deal in magnetism. So not only are they incarnating in vessels and dealing in the magnetism and the magnetic aspect of your being and your brain, this is why you're seeing lights, and this is why you're hearing strange sounds and things like that. Is because you are maybe those people that are experiencing those things, you may be experiencing an incarnation at that particular time. An Etherian may be incarnating, and you're using your vessel. And what happens is that when that happens, it amps you up to a different reality, to a different dimension, because we're supposed to be shifting to a higher dimension. And really, in reality, the only people that will make it is those particular people that will be able to take on an incarnation of Etherian permanently. This is why you must become a vegan. This is why you must become a vegetarian and things of that nature. It's because it's not just to live long, to look good, and to feel good. It's going to become a time on this planet where you won't be able to exist unless you're this way. And those people that don't become this way, they will be called what's called demons or Luciferians. And it's not religion. We're talking about a scientific level. See, a Luciferian is one who depends on synthetic technology to exist. So you got these people running around with these phone apps, doing all this stuff with these phones and stuff like that. I'm going to do a video on that too. And that's Luciferian technology. All the Melchizedeks know that. That's Luciferian technology, and you could do more with your brain than you could ever do with that damn phone. Some people can use their brains and tell you everything you're doing on that damn phone from just using their brain and tuning in. Because everything that's created, technology-wise, is based on the human body. So what's happening with these Etherians is they can not only incarnate into bodies, but they're taking on the vibration of the earth. And when you talk about the geomagnetic pole shifting, because you have geomagnetic poles, this is the Etherians that are causing this. This is what's happening now, ladies and gentlemen. The geomagnetic poles are shifting. And this is supposed to last for years. And it's kind of like a musical chairs type of scenario where nobody really knows where the new poles are going to end up at. Everybody's trying to figure out where the new pole is going to end up at. Remember, in 2012, the North Pole ended up being in Milwaukee. This is where the North Pole ended up being, because based on the geomagnetic pole shifting, it can end up just about anywhere. You never know where these geomagnetic poles, it's like energy moving. You never know where it's going to end up at. So you never know where you're going to end up there. There's no way to really prepare for this except for embracing a spiritual lifestyle and learning as much about yourself. You can't buy enough food, because this is going to affect every industry. I still have yet to do my video on banking and economics, but this is going to affect banking. Why do you think these bankers are killing themselves? Supposedly, because that's not what's going on either, but I'll talk about that in another video. But why do you think all these bankers are dying? Let's just put it that way. This is based upon the geomagnetic pole shifting. Why do you think all this stuff is going on with the currency and the economic system? Why is all this stuff going on the media? People are going crazy. They're losing it. The very structure that this place is built upon, it's not left brain anymore. We're moving into a spiritual energy. And a lot of people don't understand it. Those people that will survive are only those people that are spiritual. So this is what's causing the earth to change. And this is what's causing the weather to change. Earthquakes. They just had an earthquake in Georgia. It's going down. I was talking to one of my fellow associates, and we predicted this thing. We was like, I feel like it's going to be an earthquake. We were talking about that, and 5 days later, an earthquake came. Why? We didn't predict anything. This is the collective consciousness again. We may be attracted this earthquake. See, there's Native Americans. You talk about harp and what they can do. You can chant and create weather. I can teach you harmonics. I don't teach this stuff publicly. I can teach you harmonics to teach you how to create weather patterns. Weather is created totally by us. We are the ones that are responsible. We are the ones, we keep talking about the Illuminati and this person pointing fingers. You're responsible. You watching this video, you're responsible for everything that you are experiencing right now in your reality, whether good or bad. And even though you might not understand it, the first step is to accept the fact that you're responsible for it and stop playing a victim. Because the thing is that if you don't embrace the spiritual lifestyle, you can only become a demon or Luciferian, where you basically will have this dark energy that rules over you. And this dark energy will become your 0 point or your 0 time reference. And you'll lose your mind because your mind is based on magnetism. So when you talk about people losing their mind, you're going to lose your mind if you're not eating properly. If you're not holding on to these crystals at all times. When they send astronauts out of space, they don't tell you this stuff. They give them a crystal to hold on to. A lot of time, a certain crystal, a certain type of organite form to hold on to so they could keep their magnetism located in their aura. See, just because the magnetism on the earth is out of whack does not mean the magnetism located in your body and your aura has to go out of whack. You can center your magnetism from within. So when you talk about going into the center of the earth, and the only beings that will make it is those that are invited into the center of the earth, that may be one level to it, but first you have to be invited into your own center. A lot of you are not even invited into your own self. You're scared of your own self. This is why you can't meditate. You can't sit still and sit quiet for a period of time. And this is because of the fact that you haven't been initiated into your own inner chambers. You don't understand yourself. You don't want to get your natal chart done. You don't want to understand your numerology. You don't want to get your palm read. You're scared of those things because it's demonic, but these are going to be the very things that save your life. See, when you understand, and you people that are in religion, may the universe be pleased with them. I'm not knocking religion. I mean, that's, you do what you do, and it serves a purpose. It's more of a historical purpose, actually, is what religion serves. It's more of a historical based system. But the thing is that when you get into this religion, you're not taught about yourself. They don't teach you who you are. They don't teach you your religion creates victims because they cause you to look on the outside for everything. You blame everybody. You point the finger for everything. So we got to get out of this. You're creating these weather patterns. You're making it 20 feet of snow in Connecticut or wherever it was going on, that they said they got like 20 feet of snow somewhere or something like that. 14 to 20 feet of snow. Or not 20 feet, I'm sorry. 14 to 20 inches of snow. Somewhere on the East Coast, up north somewhere. You're creating the snow in Georgia. You're doing these things because the vibration and the things that we're experiencing on this planet is based upon, on the surface of the planet now, is based upon the collective consciousness of humans. And until you get control of your emotions, until we get control of this society, the worst is yet to come. Because this is a test. That's what we're in. This is an initiation to see who is going to make it. We have to fix all the problems on the surface of the earth before we can ever be invited as a group into the center of the earth. You can't even go in a dream state. A lot of you have never even been to the center of the earth in a dream state. You can't even go there. They won't even invite you in. Most people are flying around when they dream in the air somewhere. They don't realize that, but that's what you're doing. But you haven't even been invited. It's a difference when you dream from the center of the earth, buddy. I know because I go there often. When you get invited to that center of the earth, that inner chamber, that's where the real information is. That's where they really create the weather at. That's where they really create earthquakes at. All of the weather patterns are created from the center of the earth. It's based upon, all weather is based upon the tectonic energy that's located on this particular planet. On this particular planet, we have a climate control system. And this climate control system is regulated from the center of the earth. It has nothing to do with out there. So stop blaming HAARP. Stop blaming chemtrails for creating weather and for creating a lot of the shifts. And stop blaming the Illuminati and all of them for creating a lot of shifts that are on this planet, and begin to look within. Begin to look at yourself. Begin to study yourself so that you could free yourself and so that you could free your mind from the control freaks, whether they're aliens or whoever they are, from these control freaks that only use and tap into collective consciousness and play you off of your own self. It's almost like, this is how they do it. I'm going to shut the video down. It's almost like if I know what you're thinking, right? And I know how you think, I can go on the outside and begin to create scenarios around you to kind of predict what you're going to do next. And this is how I can control your life. If I know how you think, like you're the type of person, and I know your habits, for instance, and you're a creature of habit. I know you like to smoke weed, you like to get drunk, you hate your job, you like you cheat on your woman, you got about 7, 8 women, and you don't tell other women about these women, you're a liar. And I know these things. I can go and create scenarios around you and fuck up your life. And then when you fall victim to it, then you point the finger and say, oh, it's the Illuminati and it's the devil and it's this person, it's that person, you. Because they hacked into your internal chamber. So when you begin to know about yourself and know these things, you might still have these problems, but then you'll learn how to become a shapeshifter. You'll learn how to play into that energy for a certain time period, but then you'll stop. You'll go to another direction. You have to move in a zigzag, move in a Z. Be like zigzag, zigala. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this video down. It's a whole nother level. I could talk about the letter Z and go into a whole nother demonstration, but I'll shut this video down. And until we meet again, I'll leave you in peace.